Welcome back to Theresa.is.Dead. My name is Theresa and I'm very much alive. And if you're new here, welcome. I have an awful garbage mouth, and if you're not into that or weird shit in general, then this is not the place for you. Feel free to exit out the video here. No harm, no foul, but I'll remember our time fondly. If you want to jump straight to the overall review of the product, I'll leave a time code down below. Feel free to jump ahead. You know, it was really funny because I actually wanted to talk about a funny thing that happened, and then this happened, and then this is all I've been thinking about, so it's actually spooky. Okay, so I know in one of my previous videos of like the BoxyCharm February or whatever, I was kind of interrupted towards the end of the video where it sounded like somebody was like walking around and nobody was home, and it was terrifying and whatever, I'm fine, I'm alive, the ghost didn't eat me. The other night when I was coming home from work, when I walk into my front door, there's like a small hallway and then there's another inner door. So when I open that up, you could see either a large staircase that goes to the second floor apartment, or you just walk straight, which is my current apartment. I'm on the first floor. So as I'm walking in, I had my headphones in my ears and I was just whatever, listening to music. I looked at the mail, I seen that I had a package. I'm like looking at my mail, and then I look over to the staircase and I look up, and I swear to God I saw a person just for a fucking second, and I remember dropping the fucking package to the floor, being like, this was like 6 o'clock at night, and I just, it startled me. I didn't expect that. I can't describe what I saw because it happened so fast, but it was a fucking person though. It was a person on the top of outside my mom's apartment. I stood there probably for about a good 2 minutes, staring up the staircase thinking that I was gonna see somebody. I didn't. So I picked up my package and my mail, and I walked briskly into my apartment and closed the door. Now, I don't know why, but I feel like for a period of time it's been pretty quiet for the most part, but now it's just a little bit more noisier than usual. So that actually scared me. It wasn't creepy, but it was just like, I wasn't expecting it. Like, I didn't feel like it was evil or anything like that. Since then, I feel like all I hear is footsteps, and what creeps me out the most is that, and I know I mentioned this before in previous videos, but my living room has a door, right? And I always have the door closed when I'm in this room. And I work from home on Monday, so it's relatively quiet. It's just me. Today, there was probably about 3 instances where I heard someone open my kitchen door right outside my living room, walked into the bathroom, closed the door, opened the door, walked out. There's nobody home. There's nobody home. And I know I've always said, like, yeah, I could hear my neighbors and stuff like that. But this was different though. I could tell when it's my shitty fucking neighbors on either side. You can tell. This was like, no, this was happening literally fucking they're a couple feet away from me. I don't know. I am not sure what's going on exactly in my house, but it's pretty active right now. I'm just trying to be cool about it. So yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of the update on the ghost, people. It's not scary per se, but it's definitely way more active than usual. So I feel like maybe something's going on. Maybe the ghost people know something's going on here. I don't know, but it freaked me out though when I came home, because I've never seen stuff like that. Usually when I see stuff, it's either like morning or like really, really late at night. 6 o'clock in the evening is like, you know, whatever, people coming home from work. This ghost did not give a shit. So anyway, that's what happened to me. And I was gonna tell a funny story, and yeah, I can't even tell a funny story because that happened. So for my people that have been asking about ghost stuff lately, well, there you go. Oh God. Anyway, so that was my day. I hope you're having a way better day than I am. On today's video, we're going to be doing a retro review for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. I recently did a poll on Instagram and I asked which one did you want to see first, Subculture or Jeffree Star's Blood Sugar palette, and it was actually almost tied. I want to say it was like 52 to 48%, like, which was like really down to the wire, and this won by the skin of its teeth. But before I show you all the looks that I created with this palette and give you my overall thoughts, I figured I'm going to read you a little bit about the palette. Subculture eyeshadow palette retails for $42. The darker, edgier complement to modern renaissance, Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture eyeshadow palette features 14 full pigment shadows that range from grungy ultra mattes, duochromes, and bold metallics with an underground vibe. This intriguing eyeshadow collection features ABH highly pigmented, easy to blend formula and offers a unique color range that complements any skin tone. Before I go into my overall thoughts, I do want to apologize because normally what I like to do is like show this guy palette looks like, show the swatches and all that good stuff. I only kind of put the images from the website in there only because this palette has seen better days, and I actually broke one of the fucking shadows today, which is the shade down here, Rowdy, which was unfortunate because it just literally fell off my couch, but it was enough to break on my floor, and now I have this weird like black blue eyeshadow smeared into my carpet, and it's now forever stained, so that's great. So my history with Subculture is interesting. This is actually the second Subculture palette that I purchased. The first one, I bought it when it first came out because Color Story Beach is pretty much me to a T. This is the colors I like. I love this grungy look. The first time I purchased it was when it first came out, and I used it maybe a handful of times, fucking hated it, and returned it promptly. I then purchased the Prism palette, which came out a few months after that, and loved the shit out of that palette. And that kind of like started my love for ABH eyeshadows. When I went to BeautyCon last year, Anastasia Beverly Hills had a booth, and one of the first things I noticed was that Subculture, I believe, was 40% off. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but something told me to buy it. I bought the palette, didn't touch it for a couple of months. It was just more of like a thing that just to have in my collection, which is fucking ridiculous and a waste of money, I know. Something told me to just kind of start dipping back into this palette. And ever since I started dipping into this palette a couple months ago, I have been obsessed with it to the point that I feel like I gave it a really shitty review. Granted, I have never actually reviewed this product ever because I didn't have a YouTube channel until about March, April of 2018. So I never had a review on this. And the whole start of retro reviews, palettes that I own that came out a while back, but I didn't purchase it until now, or I didn't receive them until now. So that's why this is going to be kind of like a newish series of just retro reviews, because a couple of you guys were curious to see what my thoughts were on this palette. I love it. I love it. I love this palette because I have to work for it. When I first tried this palette, I didn't understand how to use it. I think also about 2 years ago, I definitely had a different makeup style. So for me, I feel like this palette is all about being adaptable and learning how to adapt your techniques for making this work. I think once you figure out how to make it work, this is a beautiful fucking palette. This is definitely not a palette for beginners. I think people will get very frustrated very quickly because it's not going to perform the way that you think it should perform. So what I would like to do now is kind of talk about the eyeshadows that I use for the 4 looks that I'm showing you, and I want to explain how it worked for me in hopes that, you know, if you do own this palette and you are struggling, maybe these techniques can help you. So I want to talk about actually like the 2 duochromes in this palette, which is the shade Cube and Electric. First of all, they are both beautiful shades. So that's Electric and that's Cube. I found that Cube is incredibly powdery, so applying it with a brush is probably going to be your biggest mistake. I think for my tutorial, I tried to do it a little bit, but then I patted it out with my finger, and I found that while using a finger, it definitely shears out the product, and then you're able to kind of get the beautiful pink, purple, white duochrome. It's so pretty, and these lights are not doing it justice. The shade Electric, on the other hand, is something that you could use with your finger or a brush. It's incredibly messy and very, very soft pressed and very creamy, which is really nice, but you have to be very, very gentle when using it. By using it with setting spray, it actually enhances the color a tad bit more, but it does look really good dry. And then you have, of course, this one metallic here, which is the shade Adorn, actually used with a finger. It's a beautiful bronze shade. Using a finger application, you're kind of able to like really sheer it out and make it look very grungy and dirty, but I mean that in the best way possible. The rest of the palette is a bunch of mattes. I love Dawn. I think it's just like a really beautiful light transition color. Roxy is this really nice muted coral shade that's beautiful. The 2 shades Destiny and Untamed are these 2 green shades right here. They're both so beautiful. I would say that the shade Destiny is actually one of my favorite olive green shades. The pigmentation is wonderful. I had no issue with it. You then have like the 2 yellow shades. You have the shade New Wave, which is, I guess, kind of borders more orangey yellow, while the shade Edge over here is more of a traditional kind of mustard color. That's the shade New Wave, that's the shade Edge. They look very similar, but you can tell that one has more of an orange undertone and the other one has definitely more mustard undertone. So I found that these 4 shades were a little bit more problematic for me, which is All-Star, Mercury, Access, and Rowdy. Rowdy, the poor fucking thing, it just completely fell apart. That sucks. But These three though, I found that they were the kind of eyeshadows that you have to just place and build up. You can't really blend out with. They're really good if you just kind of pack them on and then leave them alone. Like, don't even look at them, let them stay. They'll be very pigmented and bright and adorable. I think as soon as you start to enter any sort of like blending motion, it just starts to disappear, like completely. When I first got Subculture, that's what happened to me, and I got really upset about it, and I was like, why am I gonna pay for something that is ultimately gonna disappear off my face? So I returned it. I think me now understanding the need to be more adaptable when playing with certain eyeshadows, it actually works better if you just place them and leave them alone, because they are highly pigmented. That's the one thing I will say about these guys, is that there is a lot of fallout, like unnecessary bullshit, crazy fucking fallout. Being that they're so powdery, if you hit them the right way, they'll fucking break. Like, literally, this fell not even a foot from my couch, and this one shattered. And I have carpet on my floor. To make your life easier, do your eye makeup first. Do not do it afterwards. Otherwise, you're going to spend at least a good 10-15 minutes trying to clean up the mess. And I felt that way, especially with the shade Electric. This bitch, it fucking explodes on your face. All down here just looked like someone kicked the shit out of me because I had like that yellow-green reflect. It looked awful. But it's such a pretty shade. I found that the yellows also had a lot of fallout too. Again, not easy to clean up. You can't really remove it with the large powder brush. It pretty much makes you look like you have jaundice, which is awesome. Like I mentioned before, what worked for me is, especially with these more darker, kind of concentrated, more pigmented shades, I feel like just placing them with a short packer brush was fine. As long as I didn't inject any sort of blending motions, I just laid them the way that they should be, it's fine. It's not gonna give you any problems. And the pigment's actually going to stay for a long time. The other thing I will say is that it all kind of really depends on the primer that you're using. I have used this with a bunch of different eyeshadow primers, and for me the best thing that works is actually a concealer base. By using a concealer base, I had no issue with pigmentation or rubbing off or wearing off or anything like that. I think when I first used this palette, I was using the Urban Decay Potion Primer, which that's a piece of shit. Unfortunately, I can't recommend any other primer except for a concealer base, and for me, what worked the best is actually when it's a little bit tacky. I took this palette with me to California, and I pretty much use this palette almost every day. This is a beautiful color story, so I think if you're kind of into this kind of grungy 90s look, then this is for you. I hope you enjoyed the looks that I created with this palette. I know a bunch of you asked for kind of some inspiration stuff, and for me, the things that I've been really obsessed with in this palette are the greens and yellows for obvious reasons. While I'm shooting this review today, I was like looking to see like, oh, okay, is it on Sephora website or Ulta website? It's not. It's not on either website. I think people hated it that much that nobody purchased it. So the only way you can purchase it is actually ABH website, and I'm pretty sure maybe Beautylish as well. I know you can actually technically pick up this palette in TJ Maxx and Marshalls for about $24.99. I think that's awesome. If that's the case, then go for it, because to me, that is actually a really good deal. If you are really new into makeup and you're new into eyeshadow and stuff like that, don't get this, because this is gonna annoy the shit out of you and it's not worth it. If you have this palette, if you hate this palette, if you love this palette or whatever, I'm actually kind of happy that I've been posting a lot of pictures with this palette, and a lot of you guys have said that you love this palette. So that makes me incredibly happy. But if you don't love it, let me know down below why you don't love it and whatever. Maybe we can troubleshoot or something like that. Because I think once you figure out the mechanics of this, this is awesome. And I think it's actually my favorite ABH palette. I know, I said that. Who am I? On that note, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it as always. Feel free to like, comment, hit that subscribe button, it's free, and hit that bell icon for notification of all my future posts. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, out in the streets, in life, whatever, and I'll see you little pumpkins later. Bye.